I always say nobody can bamboozle you once you have the data. Your data needs to be clear because that's the only benchmark you can use to measure yourself eventually if you're doing well or not. For a lot of people, when you manage brands or you run your business, you assume that your customer is you, but you're really not your customer. A lot of young people don't want to walk the walk. They see that marketing manager and it's like, why can't I be a marketing manager? And you've just started a career, literally. I told my team members, there's no information or anything I'm teaching or you're getting from me that I can take back from you. When you go for another interview, you package yourself, I can do this. You will not tell them that you were frowning and we fought when you were trying to achieve it. So just take it in all, honesty, and just take it and learn what you want to learn from it.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to Stories and Journeys, where we explore the transformative power of learning, growth, and resilience. Join us as we uncover untold narratives and ignite curiosity. My name is Oluwatimileyin Oyedeji. Joining us here today is a renowned marketing expert who had done so well for herself, and founder of a very big, fast-rising business in Nigeria. She helps businesses through leveraging innovative strategies to drive revenue that is not only scalable, but sustainable. She's not a person than Adebimpe Osanyintuyi. Hi, Adebimpe.
Hello, Timileyin.
Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
I know you run a very busy schedule, managing the business, crop of people, that work with you. It's been an interesting journey for you, I think.
Yes, it has.
Over 19 years, working in this space. How was the journey for you when you were about to start in 2003?
So in 2003, I started my career in a market research firm. I studied marketing, by the way, in Bond University in South Africa. So I studied marketing. So when I came back to Nigeria, I worked in a market research firm, but for about a year plus. Thereafter, I started getting roles that spanned between brand and marketing management roles in FMCG. So I worked with GSK and I also worked with PZ. So I've done a couple of brand management roles, and up until 2018, when I resigned as the market manager for one of the biggest brands in GSK.
Yeah, beautiful. I mean, you've done fantastically well. I think, looking at what life was for you, what life was like for you in 2003 when you started with virtual marketplace in SS.
Yes.
And then you quickly moved on from there to work with Inter Africa Group.
Africa.
Good. And then I think you came back to Nigeria at that time. What was that journey like, after studying in SA, coming back to Nigeria, living customer relationship?
Yes. So I think there was a mix of culture shock. Bearing in mind that I had gone to South Africa immediately after high school. So going through varsity, having my first few workplace experiences in South Africa and the way things run, having to come to Nigeria, and when you say you studied marketing, people automatically assume sales, because then it was banking marketer and everything. So when you say marketing, people automatically assume, I'm like, no, there's a difference, so trying to adjust to that and kind of explain, what you're supposed to be doing or what you stand for. And I think that was why it was easier to break into market research first, which helped because the experience I gained there was able to use even in the other core brand and marketing roles, because obviously there's a level of market research that needs to happen. So I think South Africa was a bit laid back. I worked the virtual marketplace. There was customer marketing as well. So we dealt with customers and we marketed some of the products, but it was a bit laid back. It was easy. So coming to Nigeria and having to do that was a totally different environment, but The journey so has been quite productive and fulfilling.
Interesting.
Yeah.
What were those things that for you were you classify as what you refer to as culture shock? Looking at SA Nigeria when you came back, and trying to get into the business scene again in Nigeria with Emblo. What was it like? What were those things that you saw like, oh really? And how were you able to manage those things?
So I think is expectations of potentially employers on how you deliver within a certain time. So typically in SA, once you're done at your 5, you carry your bag and go. But here, even if you're done, everybody's sitting, waiting, because you don't want to leave before
Your boss.
your boss is. You don't want to leave before your boss leaves, because it looks like it's like you don't have anything to do, having to do that. But I think over the years, I had grown to be confident in my delivery, that even if I was leaving at 4, my bosses knew I'd done my work, or I would do it when I get to wherever location I was, and would still deliver on the set time. But initially it was difficult, and I just felt people were just being mean. Why was it so? And then even approaching people, either you're doing business development within your marketing, then at LBO, people were just mean. And just the respect for people was just not there. The ways you talk to people, even if they're not at par with you, but there was just it was just funny, but I guess experience over time has helped me better manage either my bosses or employers or whoever I come in contact with.
Beautiful. Looking at what you were able to do at that time, and the way you were able to find your feedback in the market, you didn't want to work with JSK, which was based on the fantastic job you've done with the Nutrisema brand.
Yes.
What was that journey like for you? The family nutrition category. What is special about that category? And how have you been able, to sort of remain consistent, connecting the dots to where you are today?
Okay. So with Nutrisema, which was an arm of PZ, which dealt with family nutrition, which was really milk brands. It was quite interesting because it's a product that the different brands appeal to different categories. So there were some some products or SKUs that were more kid friendly, and there were some that were for the family. So we had different customer persona per each of the products. But even for the kid products, you're still talking to the moms.
Correct.
Who have the buying power and mostly the decision making around what they consume in the home. So it was quite interesting. And then for each product, they had a different customer they're speaking to in terms of socioeconomic class of the customers. So having to navigate 3 different products, 3 different kinds of customers was quite interesting. So that was a good experience. I think it opened me into that. And then the facts for the kids product, we always emphasize the fact that there was a high child malnutrition in Nigeria, and milk was one of the ways, or at least consumption of milk was one of the ways to kind of reduce that. So we push that a lot of times for families and children, nursing moms, and just the family alike. So transiting into GSK, my first brand had to do with nutrition as well. So that was our core, that was our unique selling point. The fact that across the other competitions that we worked with, we focused on family nutrition, which was with the Horlicks brand, So that it was, for lots of better words, it was an easy transition, because we're really talking to the same people. We're really talking to the same mothers, children alike, and all that. So it was good. It was an easy transition. A different environment, different structure, different approach, but the core message was the same. So it was easy to transition and still pass the same message to the consumers. Thereafter, I moved to a totally different category. I moved into I started working with Panadol.
Correct.
Which took some learning. because the target market and people you're speaking to are not always the consumers, but the experts, which are the people who would prescribe
Okay.
many of those, or your pharmacies, or people who you would ask for it, because based on regulation, there's some claims you can't make, which kind of ties your hand in terms of marketing, because it's medicine. It's highly regulated, so your marketing has a cap based on the message that you can pass to the consumers. So we spoke a lot to the experts, attended a lot of experts conferences that they do, just to pass the message so that it is the preferred brand to be recommended in the case of pain or cold or in the likes. So the experience has been good, cutting across different categories.
That's quite beautiful. I think it also helps with stature. You're fully well-rounded when it comes to both family nutrition and speaking to maybe other stakeholders.
Yes.
But
We call them over-the-counter medication.
Okay, yes. So pharmacy.
Yes.
Beautiful. For that energetic role, when you assumed that role, you became the marketing manager.
Yes.
Before then, you were the brand manager.
Senior brand manager.
Senior brand manager.
Prior to that, brand manager.
What changed? What extra muscle, what other strength did you have to grow? Because obviously as a senior brand manager, you're doing really well. You understand the core, of what brand management means, regardless of whatever vertical you're working in at the time. But what changed? What did you have to do extra, when you assumed that role of being a marketing manager?
I think as a marketing manager, you take ownership of the brand in entirety. So sometimes as a brand manager, you could be one brand manager, you could be a couple, you could be working as a group. As a marketing manager, you take complete ownership of the brand and the results that come with it. You also tend to manage more people, and not necessarily your direct reports, but agencies, regulatory, and all the other roles that are dotted line to your brand. And you are like the one stop for the final decision prior to probably the marketing director. So there's a lot of, you need to know what it entails to manage a brand, and not just even the soft things. You also have your financial management. You need to understand your P&L. What are the compositions that make your brand profitable or not? At what point are you recommending a price? So you are not waiting for your director or your manager to say, it looks like we need to recommend a price. They're expecting that proactively. You're saying, there seems to be a gap. Finance or the factory has told us this product is a bit more difficult or pricier, so we need to, we're finding it difficult to source. You are able to talk to category, which is across countries. At some point, a category lead or manager was in Turkey. So you are able to liaise with them and be on top of it. So be proactive and not waiting to receive instructions on how to go ahead. So rather you are feeding the business information, giving them options for them to decide. So I think for me, I absolutely loved brand management because you are part of the whole life cycle of the brand. I absolutely loved it. It was a lot, but because anything that had to do with brand, even when the factory had an issue, the brand manager needed to be on top of it. You need to be aware. So now taking all that information, all that update, and being able to make a decision or propose a decision on how do we go from here and get management approval.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
That's beautiful. What role would you say data played, in all of those?
Fantastic. A whole lot. I would say, I think that was one of the biggest takeouts I got, even at JSK, data-driven insights, like having to make decisions around the brand, who your customers are, what their patterns or lifestyle is really driven by the data. So we had research companies who provided the data on a monthly basis, which is then used to decide on next steps, which is then used to benchmark yourself against competition, knowing where you stand, check your market share and the likes. So data was key. And I remember even in proposals, your data needs to be clear, because that's the only benchmark you can use to measure yourself eventually if you're doing well or not. But your data must be your starting point. Your data is also your financials. So where are you, where were you, where are you going to? If you don't have that, then how do you measure if you're growing or not? And if you're doing a post campaign without data, it's just fluff. It's really just fluff, because we did well. How? What are you measuring it against? So data, I would say, was a major driver for me, and it's one of the things I've also taken even into entrepreneurship at the moment. Some of my people say analysis paralysis, but I'm like, that's the way I learned it, know. And that's the only way you can be on top of kind of the whole thing. So when you say something, I ask, so what data? What were we doing before? What are we doing? Okay, so what are you aiming at? So it's all data, really.
Beautiful. I mean, that's quite insightful, because like you said, without data, it's just fluff. I think that's critical. I like that you touched on the fact that, even in entrepreneurship, that's also one of the strong pillars, that you leverage. What was the journey like for you, moving into entrepreneurship? So for context, you're done fantastically well, working with various global brands. You're fairly okay. You had left a place where you had studied, you come to another market, you had done very well for yourself, and then you transition to entrepreneurship. What was that journey like for you?
So the beginning of the entrepreneurship journey, I was still working.
Okay.
So I had done that on a very small scale for 2 years or so.
Okay.
Before I gave myself a set date. So I think I moved the dates about twice.
Oh.
So I had an exit plan, and I knew I wanted to transition. I knew that to grow the business based on the growth projection or what I wanted, I couldn't give the current business my all, and I would be distracted. So I set an exit date. One of the factors was also financial.
Okay.
So I had to move the exit date, because I was like, if I need to leave, I need to have some buffer, because I know this business I'm going into cannot pay me or maintain the standard of living that I was having. So I needed to be sure that I had enough to be able to transition. So I moved it eventually, but I would say when I said I was leaving, people thought I was nuts.
Whoa.
Yes, and I understand. I think I might have thought of the same thing if somebody had told me that as well.
Yeah.
And it was on the fact that you have it going well, you have everything working for you, we're not chasing you. My lead he didn't believe I was resigning to start to continue my business. I think until people had conversations and convinced that she actually is running something on the side, he was shocked. So I would have probably done the same thing if I was the receiver of that information, But I think I was pretty clear on what I wanted out of the business. I saw the potential, and I at some point drawn out a roadmap of, at least at that point, how I felt we could grow in the next, say, 5 years. And honestly, the experience I had in my corporate played a huge fact. So you're doing 5-year projection, you're doing 3-year forecast. I literally was doing that in my business, So I had projected that if I do ABC, even with life happening, at least we should be able to do this. This is the next step I need to do. These are the things I need to do in the next step, and I cannot do that while sitting in the office, because something is going to get off. Exactly, one of it would lose out. So I took that decision. In the first few months, it was a bit of a struggle, honestly, because I'm used to going to work, and now I realize that every single decision making is on me. Like, there's not too bad. I'm like, okay. Initially, it was like, figure it out. I'm like, but you've got to figure it out yourself. So it was a bit, but I guess we swung into action. And I would say that one of the objectives of growing the business, which I felt was a major pillar in growing the business, was we wanted to move from a purely B2C to a B2B, which is supplying the retail stores. And I felt like that was where our growth would come from. Like if we're going to do B2C, we're going to keep playing small. So it was clear in my mind once I made up my mind B2B. I already knew what we needed to do. We needed to do NAFDAC. We needed to do a couple of things. I cannot be in the office. NAFDAC does not open on Saturday. I need to go to NAFDAC during the day. And obviously then I couldn't afford someone who I thought was okay to represent us. So I needed to do some of those things. And I would say that then I think we had maybe 1 or 2 stores that we were kind of struggling to get in just to show face. But now we have over 160.
Whoa.
So
Pan Nigeria.
yes.
Beautiful.
Yes. So that was one of our major, which we've been able to deliver on. And then even as we move, the goalposts keep shifting. What do we want to do? Ensure that we have a clear plan financially, even operation structure-wise. How do we do that? And it's been good. And I must say, I think I also have a good and loyal team. So that has also helped, who are willing to learn. So that has significantly helped.
Beautiful.
The growth over the years.
That's quite interesting, because I can imagine you leaving the place of work where you were at the time, and the first couple of months could be very, very tough. Putting the structure in, getting the right people, but I want to check in on something. Why did you set up that business?
Okay, so I think the initial desire to start it was, so for our core product, which is Greek yogurt, because we have a range of products, but our core is the Greek yogurt. At that point, it stemmed from looking for an alternative product to ice cream, because I have a sweet tooth.
Okay.
So I wanted something different. So I had bought this homemade yogurt maker from Amazon and checked some recipes, did it. Then it was even still yogurt powder, mixed it, did it, put it in the machine, and we had it at home, and it was like, this is the next best thing. And I would say that even as a business, we've evolved, because when we started as a frozen yogurt business, not even a fresh Greek yogurt business.
Interesting.
But market insight, asking people, just trying to understand that what do people want. And we realized that a lot of people wanted fresh. As much as they wanted yogurt, they wanted to be able to take it home, not necessarily on the go like ice cream. So the guys who would do on the go like ice cream were more kids. So that's why you will see people selling cone ice cream, all that. It is really kids. Yes, your secondary target could be adults, but it's really children. But we wanted to do more than that, and realized that to do that, to break into the adults and the families and all that, we needed to do something that they could take home, because that was a lot of the feedback we were getting. Can I take it home? Would it melt before I get there? I like it, but I don't want it now, and all that. So, and our first pop-up was actually at Ozone Cinemas in Yaba.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we had a frozen yogurt stand there. Yeah, I remember then I'll rush from work, quickly go there, check on them. How so what have you done? Okay, send me reports and all that initially. So we've evolved, and that's why I say data-driven insight is really critical. We could have decided to say, oh, I love this yogurt idea being frozen, and I'm sticking with it, and I will keep pushing. But we realized that the real consumers wanted, that is not what they wanted. It could be a once-off, but it's not what they would take every day. So the space we play in with Greek yogurt could actually stand as your everyday breakfast, would last longer, and obviously your volumes are more because people buy in bulk. I want 1 liter today, I want 2 liters, I can share with people. So the number of people that you're actually appealing to or that are able to consume are way more. Because I realized that with the frozen yogurt, you will sell, you have a niche market, but it might not give you the kind of revenue or scale that you want.
Interesting. I mean, from estimates, in 2020, they said the yogurt and dairy, market in Nigeria is about 1.4, million USD, which I believe is way more than that now.
Oh, it's way more.
Yeah, it's way more than
It's
that.
way more.
No,
It's way more. So I know that there was a research that was done last year, I think by IMAC. It's an international market research consultancy firm. November 2023, and they project that by 2027, the yogurt market in Nigeria will be $247 million.
Wow.
So, yeah. So what I realized even in the Nigerian market is the fact that there's lack of adequate data. And the ones you find are really inadequate. In fact, even just by your layman, by the time you calculate, you say, this thing is not, because it's not even just the Greek yogurt market, it's the yogurt market, the dairy market. It can't be $1.something million. So, yeah. So, but they did an independent research and estimated that by 2027 to be about $243 million. So it's a huge market.
Yeah. So looking at how you've been able to grow, and guys, this is what the yogurt, looks like. There are various SKUs. You want to try them. There are stores, over 160 stores. Across the country. This is how fresh the yogurt looks. So yeah, transitioning, to become that big business now, right? In over 160, stores across the country. The early days of this business, you say you've transitioned, you had to optimize, you had to lean on data, insights to refine the product, focus more on what the consumers, want. But those early days, what were those things that, you had to pay attention to? I imagine there's regulation in the space as well, because it's also something people consume. There's also the health side of things, ensuring that you have the right approvals.
Yeah.
What was that journey like for you? And at what point did you feel like you needed to get an extra hand to support you or expand on the team?
So I think the yogurt is a very sensitive product because it's a fermented product. So the safety and hygiene is number one. I'm aware now that I think NAFDAC does not even do registration for yogurt products that are made in the house. So there's no small scale. You need to use machine. They need to see your treated water, and it's for a reason. So in the early days for us, I think hygiene was important. Understanding the effects and the unique selling points and the core benefits of the product was important, so that we could also pass that message to consumers. The yogurt category could also be seen as a low barrier to entry. It could be, because but I think what has stood us apart, one, is consistency.
Okay.
Two is that I think we've been able to communicate the nutrition and educate people on why it is good for you. So beyond just your nutrition, it promotes your healthy lifestyle. We use ingredients, we don't have any hidden additives. And then for a lot of people who do dairy, they will tell you they're lactose intolerant. Our Greek yogurt does not make you have the effect of, yes. So if you're lactose intolerant, you can take it. So those are some of our USPs that we've tried to market over the years on how we stand out and how we're different, and some products have come in and gone out, but like I said, we've been consistent, we've been there. We've gone through the different inflations, the economy, everything you can think of. So we're going to be 10 years next year. So we've been through it all.
Serious work.
Yes.
That you've put in there. I mean, the branding, the marketing, experience you acquired, where you had worked before, sort of played a critical role.
Definitely.
In what you're doing now.
Yeah.
So if you had to speak to a 22-year-old boy or girl, out there now, that is heavily driven, and just starting out in the marketing or branding space, what would be your advice to such person? If they're looking to start off and just do the whole career thing from 9 to 5, but they have a vision, to have a business of their own. Yeah, what would be your advice to such people?
I would say acquire knowledge, and that could be both classroom and even in the office or wherever you start. You need to be willing to learn. I think for a lot of people, when you manage brands or you run your business, you assume that your customer is you, but you're really not your customer. So you need to define who your customer is for the brand you're running in the office or your own business. You need to be clear what their lifestyle is, what their habits are. Then your products can then be better tailored to them. And when I say tailored, it could mean in terms of pricing, it could be in terms of your composition, it could mean in terms of your packaging. So say if you want to do a product that you typically think is a mass market, sometimes the level of packaging and the cost would differ depending on who you're presenting it to and who you want to buy. So it's important that you are clear on who your customer is, and that would help you market your product better to the right people, and also ensure that you're communicating the right message. So it's important to know who your customer is. I think there's also a level of resilience that needs to come to play. A lot of young people don't want to walk the walk. They see that marketing manager and it's like, why can't I be a marketing manager? And you've just started a career, literally. But you think you know. And for whatever reason, you might know, but there's just a lot of ropes that need to be learned before. So take all the knowledge you can get, and then when the time is right, you kind of run with it. So it's important that you acquire knowledge and then use data. Like I always say, nobody can bamboozle you once you have the data. You are able to be, you're smart. You are well informed. So when situations arise or decisions need to be made, you are making it strategically and not just a feel good, because it seems like the customers on the island are saying, but how do you know? And if it's one store, have you checked 10 stores? Is it a pattern? How many stores? How often? If it happened 1 month, do you have 3 months to prove the trend and not just, So yes, some young people are quite ambitious, but they need to understand they need to be data-driven to be able to deliver properly, and they need to acquire knowledge and be resilient. I don't think anybody ever had it smooth, but I feel like a lot of people want it easy. Like, I start work, I'm being promoted, they're earning, I'm getting big money, and we're moving. It doesn't work that way. So you need to be resilient. You need to be ready to prove yourself. You need to be ready to be mentored, and not an official mentor, but someone who can correct you and you take correction and you're able to pitch, you say, this is what I'm thinking, and you're being guided. I think those are very, very, very critical. So if you're able to do that, I believe that your thinking will be more strategic and versus just like a feel-good kind of approach. So it's important.
Thank you. Thank you so much for sharing that. What ethics, would you say sort of guides you? Because, you're a CEO, you manage your time, you know how to resume by 9, but what ethics, or principles, sort of keeps you going, guides you, to still, wake up every morning and get stuff done?
So I think one of my major ethical core values is integrity. If I say yes, it should be yes. Like, I don't want you to go behind me and find out it's a no. And I pass that even to my team as well. I need to be able to trust them. So if you've messed up or you haven't gotten through with something, just come out and say it. Own it, because I'm still going to find out. We're not perfect, so I expect that people are able to open up when there are challenges. And if I'm going to have you on my team, I need to be able to trust that you are delivering and you know what you're doing. And when there are hiccups, you're able to come up. Same with when they manage either their subordinates or even the vendor or the clients, that's the retail supermarkets and all that. So integrity is key for me, because in the world we're in, if you think you can get away with stuff, it will still come back to bite you somehow, especially with digital. It will come back. So I'm very keen, don't claim anything that we're not, because you think the customer wants to hear that, because you really don't know which customer is on that other side. So don't claim and don't give an answer that you're not confident on. So we have a guide on FAQs quite all right, but if you are not confident on what the information you want to pass, please don't pass it. Please don't pass it. Rather escalate and say, my manager will get back to you, because we don't want to misinform people on. So an example would be for yogurt, which is, like I said, highly nutritious. Even for infants, some people will say, oh, can my child take yogurt, Greek yogurt? The typical people, we've had people that will say yes, and I'm like, no. You need to, one, be clear on how old the child is and be specific on what they need to take. You don't want a mother
quantity?
They're not quantity. Even it has to be unsweetened completely.
Okay.
It needs to be unsweetened, and the child needs to be over 6 months. But according to UNICEF, the child should ideally be over 9 months. Meaning you should have breastfed the child for at least 9 months, because they expect that you're doing exclusive, which is not the case. But in the case that you're not, the child should be at least 6 months. So that information must be passed properly, because you don't want it to kind of come back at you in any way or form. You don't know who that customer is, So integrity for me is super, super important. Then I think another thing that I learned even in my work, and based on the way over the time that I'd been able to manage my boss, is they trusted me to deliver, and information was shared to me to allow me to do my work properly. So with a lot of SMEs, it's not the norm. The CEO assumes I know all the information. I tell you, go and do this, you come back, you give me a report. I don't do that. Oh no, because I realized that what happens is you are the alpha and the omega. You complain they're not doing their work, but they are working with very limited information, but you expect them to deliver on what you are thinking. But you have more information, so your approach and action will be totally different. So based on my management team, I share, this is how much we're making, this is what we need to do, this is the current challenges. All of us are going to share the burden together, and we're going to deliver together. And I think it has helped. It has helped them have a sense of ownership, like, she trusts me, I can deliver, I'm aware of what this is. So is that even entrepreneurial spirit, even in their individual roles, I think has really, really helped me. So I'm not working alone, and I always say that I'm not the one executing. So how do I expect them to execute with inadequate information, which is part of the data and insights? So at their level, I need to provide the data. Oh, I'm aware this is happening. I'm aware this is happening. You need to do further research. Let's do it. But without my insight, obviously because I'm at a different level, the delivery will be poor. And then I will complain that you people are not using your head in Nigeria. But the point is, you haven't given them adequate tools. They don't have the same exposure and knowledge you have, but you expect them to deliver based on what you would have done. It won't work.
Beautiful. So integrity and information. Very critical.
Yeah.
Very critical. When you're citing that example, I wanted to ask you very quickly, at what point, did you learn that? Is there a story behind it, that made you realize that this information I have to share as much as possible, going for their level, just to ensure that the business thrives? Is it that you saw some business fail due to that reason, or you encountered and you had an experience, that made you feel like I need to always share information, at least for what is required?
Okay, so I think it was two prongs. One was the fact that I felt like I was doing all the work. So you had a team, but it still fell 100% on you, and nobody else was sharing the burden, and they needed to deliver. But I was not the one having to meet with the customers. I was not the one having to do that. Yet, I had all the information. I knew the know-how. I understood, as much as I told them the formal part of, oh, this is what Dlite is about and all that, but the passion to deliver was not there because they were just doing a job. So I realized that at some point I need to free some information, so that when I'm saying, why did you do that? It's coming from, but you have all the information. There's no information that I don't know. So if I can think it, then you can think it, and challenging them to think, do your research, find out, ask questions. If I'm giving you a brief to deliver on something and you struggle, ask me questions. I'll take my time to explain but don't say okay ma and then go. And when I ask you, you are struggling for 1 week, what I thought you could have done. So I think that understanding. Then 2, I went for a course in LBS, I think in 2021, which was more like, so it was an entrepreneurship course, helping how you can be rounded and holistic in your approach in managing. And one of the things was, even when, for people like us that worked in full-time employment, your manager was not keeping information that had to do with the brand to himself. You had the information, so you could run with it. The director or board chairman or whatever was not keeping something to his chest. When you get there, they onboard you fully. If I can employ you, there must be a level of trust. So if I can't trust you, then you shouldn't even be in my... Exactly. So when I thought about that, I'm like, yeah, so how do we grow if I'm the only one that is accountable? And based on that, I decided to test with like 1 or 2 people, and I saw the way it drove them and decided, okay, we have a management team. We're all going, when there's an issue, we're all going to sit and discuss. We're all going to find solutions. So I'm not the only one going to have to crack my head on looking for solutions, and it has helped.
Beautiful. That's quite important, because just marrying it back to a structured organization, trying to mirror all of the resources, because there's so much research that's gone into global businesses being set up the way they're set up. But just copying that, and implementing just saves a lot of stress.
So I think just starting a business is okay to just copy and paste. As you evolve, as you scale, and you need to structure, then you can now figure out how that best practice works for your own business or industry. But for starters, copy and paste. For starters, because you probably don't have the manpower or the capacity to redo it from scratch. And when I mean copy and paste, is just the format and structure of delivery. As a business, you might still need to do your own SOP or guidelines, but at least you have a format that you can work, that has been tested and proven. Yeah, so yeah, that's really what we do.
Beautiful. In your current vertical or sector, are there any challenges, that are currently within the space, and what recommendations would you have, to such challenges to ensure that the dairy, the yogurt vertical across Nigeria and even Africa, we can begin to export more, to other continents, what challenges are there in the space, and what solution do you think would actually come in very handy, to push the industry a lot more globally?
Okay, so I think for one of the major issues in Nigeria is probably sourcing of the major ingredients, which is the milk. It's imported. So sometimes unavailability, a lot of times even inflation. So when, say, Netherlands or the UK has an inflation, you get that increased price. Then importation, it has its own costs. Then the person who really brings it in has his own costs, and before it gets to you, so it has so many levels, and it could be pretty expensive. I think in the last year, when there was a lot of inflation, it was really, really tough. But I know that at some point the government had tried to kind of centralize the sourcing to encourage local manufacturers to have their farms where they rear their cows here, and we can supply our milk locally. So I know they had given them a couple of years, I think it was a 6-year span, and companies who couldn't meet with that, who weren't willing to invest in either the farmland and all that, had a certain time in which they needed to consolidate themselves and probably exit. So a couple of companies, I think there were six of them. So there's a timeline in which they need to develop that for us to be able to source locally, which will take time, because you need to rear cows, you need to feed them, you need to do all of that. So I know it's on the way, and I'm hoping that we can start seeing some level of outputs eventually, and that hopefully will stabilize the prices a bit better, and obviously ensure that there's availability in the market. So I think that's one of the challenges from the dairy sector. So I think another would be supplying.
Okay.
So I think one of our biggest challenge was supply. So because the dairy category or subcategory that we play in is Greek yogurt, which means for us it doesn't have any additives or preservatives, so it has a very short shelf life. So you need to be very tactical, and that's why data is very key to us. So you need to be tactical on when you produce, when you supply, how long it's going to last in that store. Is a store a fast selling, is it slow selling? At what point do we check? At what point do we supply? So you're constantly tracking to know when next to supply or how to reduce your stock. Otherwise, there'll be a high wastage. So the supply and the fact that from production till it gets to the consumer's kitchen or fridge, it needs to be refrigerated. What that means, you need to invest in cold rooms throughout that channel, from a physical cold room for your production to a cold room van.
Okay.
Oh yes, to get to the final destination and ensure that as you deliver it to the stores, they also put it in the fridge. So that has also been it took a lot of investments.
Yeah, value chain is massive.
Yes, it is. Then even doing out of Lagos is a different ball game. This is a totally different ball game. But we've been able to cross a lot of the hurdles. At least we're able to supply Abuja, Port Harcourt, Delta, and some other locations. Yeah. So
of those markets, which of them we see is the biggest?
Oh,
yes. Okay.
Lagos.
And the same SKU across markets?
Yes. So as much as we've been talking a lot about dairy, we are a healthy treat manufacturing company. So what we offer is a range of complementary healthy products. So dairy is our core, but what we realize is when people buy Greek yogurt, it's like, what do I put in it? I don't want it alone. I want something. So you're looking for what to buy, and that's why people sell parfaits and the likes. So we have a range of dried fruits and nuts that we sell, and we also do granolas. So a lot of the stores carry that range. So they have Greek yogurt, we have granolas available in 3 variants. Then we have coconut chips, we have trail mix. Trail mix is a mix of nuts and dried products. We have dried banana chips and we have dried cranberries. So we have that range to be your one-stop when you want to have breakfast. And the good thing about Greek yogurt is it's an any day kind of meal. Breakfast, lunch, dinner, brunch, in between snack. You're good to
That
go.
one before coming.
You see. So, and it's quick. You whip it up and you do all that. Yeah. So we wanted people to be able to go to one place and pick all they need, and breakfast is served. You don't have to whip anything or put it on fire. So that is one of our vision, to ensure that we make it available and help consumers support a healthier lifestyle altogether.
Beautiful. We're about wrapping up. About 3 more questions, before we go. Do you really sleep at night?
Yes and no.
Yes. No.
So, yes, from the point of view that, like I said, I have no structure. Yes, I was going to say I don't carry the burden alone again. So, typically with SMEs, you know that these people don't want to work, they just want to do. But my team members, we can be having meeting at 11. In fact, they'll be the one to call me.
Team members, if you're watching.
No, my team members are fantastic. I have a lady she was my very first salesperson in Ozone. She's still with me, 9 years.
Whoa.
And she's fantastic. So when there are issues, sometimes she's the one calling me and I'm like, see, tonight, I don't even want to think about anything. But she's like, Ma, we need to do this. This is what I checked. That is what I did. What are we doing about it? And then we have discussions. Sometimes my husband will say, leave my wife alone. People will continue tomorrow. Yeah, so like I said, I have people who carry it as much as I do. And when I say this is what we need to do, they kind of understand what we need to do. So from that perspective, I am able to sleep. From that perspective, I'm able to sleep. But generally, I work better at nights.
I see.
I work better at night when it's quiet, everybody has gone to bed. I whip up my laptop and I start working. So yes, I might have late nights, but not from a point of view like I'm stressed, there's the problem I can't solve and all of that. No.
I see. Beautiful. I asked that question because I was thinking about the value chain again. Thinking about how you have to manage inventory, to big stores. So one store, for example, could have maybe 15 outlets.
Yes.
Within the state.
Yes.
You have to, there's so much that has to do with inventory management with those businesses. How many products have you brought into the store? Are they still okay for shelf life? How has that inventory management side of the business been for you?
So we have an ERP system that we use that helps us consolidate those information. So it does inventory in and out. It does even production. So there's the inventory of a supplier supplied a certain number of bags of milk. The inventory manager puts it in. There's also the inventory of I'm releasing X amount to the production manager to produce. She punches it in. The production manager would also say, based on what I've done, this is the output. She will punch in, inventory manager will punch in what he received. So by the time you pull out your report, you can see if there's a disparity. We have meetings on Mondays where it is presented and you can say, no, but these numbers are not looking correct. What's the problem? And they can either defend it or say this is the problem, or we'll look into it. So the ERP system we use helps us to automate that process up until invoicing. So if there's no product, the salespeople can check the system to see what is in the finished goods. And in case they have a ad hoc supply they want to do that just came up, or a new store, they can literally check to see, do we have enough stock to supply? And if not, they make a special request. They can also invoice if the stock is not in the system. It means it's not physically in the code room, and it also means that they can't raise an invoice, because you can't raise an invoice for a product that doesn't exist. And then even for payment from the accounts, once we receive payment, the accountant is clicking that payment received or this amount is received and all that. So by the time you pull out that report, you can literally see the transition across different departments on what has been done, or what the receivables are, which is who's owing, or who we've supplied, when was the last time. You could even have a 30-day aging product, or even money being owed and all that. So there are different reports that can be pulled that makes it a bit easier. The inventory person also sends his own independent reports on finished goods, wastage, and raw materials. So we see raw materials, what the MOQs are, how it was disbursed, like literally everything. So
There's data.
you can make. So it took a lot to be able to educate them, because like I said, some of them have worked with me for a long time. Some of them was their first job. So having to educate them on why you need this information. It's not just because I just feel like stressing you. I've also painstakingly kind of worked on this. So now they understand, because when I'm asking questions, they know that, it's because I've looked at that data and I'm asking because it's not adding up, So data has been mind-blowing for us. I also challenge my guys, like now saying, some of these data, you read it, interpret it, as long as you understand the objective of why I've asked for this data, before it gets to me, you should be able to pinpoint if there's an issue. So that's another level for them to say, strategically, you also need to be thinking of, how do we use this data? How would they help us? And come up with different recommendations on how we can potentially better the business and grow the business.
I think you have a fantastic business here. To be very honest, while you were speaking, I was trying to connect the dots. While you're speaking about the other chains of, products, it just makes sense, to have those complementing products. And I want to say big well done to you.
Thank you very much.
Lovely to see that you're thriving, and the business is doing well. Are there challenges that you face because you're a woman, within the space, or that you had faced, at some point in your career? And how are you to manage it? And I'll give you an example. Women, for example, when they give birth, right? Not when they give birth, like when they're moving into a stage of life of becoming mothers, right? There's so many things that changes around them and with them.
Yeah.
How, when you were at that phase in life, try to refine the question now. When you're at that phase in life, how were you able to manage that, alongside family, alongside your career, and maybe your 3-year plans at the time? How?
Okay, I would say that I have worked with companies who have a good balance with the work life. So I remember that when I went for my GSK interview, I was heavily pregnant. So I went with full stomach, big, and they actually followed through and waited for me to give birth before I come back. Yes. So it wasn't an issue. And I remember times if I had to do immunization and all those things, it didn't affect anything. So I have worked with companies who understood the fact that beyond the work you have a life, and for you to deliver utmostly, that other end needs to be sorted. Obviously there'll be times where tight deadlines, you need to stay back and all that, but it wasn't the norm. Having childbirth and all that did not, honestly, to be fair, didn't affect me. If I had to come late because my child needed to do, it wasn't a big deal. And like I said, a lot of those learnings I have taken to where, because it's worked, and we're all human beings on the long run, irrespective of where we're coming from. People want to be appreciated. People want to see that beyond your own business that you want them to work for, you actually care about their life outside, and so when I have a member of staff, like I have a member of staff who just came back on maternity leave, I gave her full 3 months paid maternity leave.
Beautiful.
That's what I know.
Beautiful.
People are like, how do you do it? I'm like, it's not going to crumble the business, but for her, she was so shocked. As in, she couldn't believe it. But the point is, one, you show that you genuinely care for this person and you're willing to support them on their life's journey while they support you on your life's journey, which is your business. And I have seen that tremendously work for me. I remember then when we were even small, I had a staff who was saying, she wanted to start a side business and she wanted maybe 1 or 2 extra days off and all that. And I'm like, okay.
Really?
She did it for like 3 months. She came back and said, "Ma, I'm not going again." So I guess with some of that, it also makes them, for lack of better words, even respect you more and see you, okay, like if she's saying this, she probably knows what she's saying, she probably understands. So you can say, no, I don't think it's a good idea, but I would allow you to try it. I'll give you an extra day off. We can negotiate how that impacts your salary. But if you honestly feel that that's what you want to do, we can work around it, So, and that has really helped our relationship. I remember even when we started, as business that needed to grow, we were doing Monday to Sunday. My people were doing Monday to Sunday. And then we even, like I said, we've evolved. We had a walk-in store at Yaba then.
Ozone.
Yes. No, even not Ozone. From Ozone we went to Sabo. We had a proper walk-in store. Yeah, we had a walk-in store. Then and we had customers in, so that had its own objective, which was to be able to have immediate cash to do all the things, because people working, they pay. Your retailer in the store would take about days and all of that. Yeah, and it worked for us. But we now had property issues. So we've had different Lagos things. It never does. We paid rent to someone who happened to be a family member in a family estate, but they were going to sell the property and he did not tell us. And we were there and we signed a lease. Yeah, so we were back and forth. We went to courts.
Damn.
It became very, very messy. Nobody told me when I packed my bags. But the good thing is, while we had that place, as we were growing in the retail space, I had gotten another place in Surulere, which was like a production facility, but it was bigger than what we needed. So when I had to take a critical decision, say, we need to leave this Yaba place, we had somewhere we could move to. Now we moved to a much, much, much bigger space, but at least that option was there, So then we did Monday to Sunday, but we've evolved. These same people are doing Monday to Friday. We don't do weekends. We don't do public holidays. We don't. So we have evolved as they have also seen that we've grown and everybody's enjoying the benefits. And that's why they feel like, okay, we're part of this. As we are growing, we see that even we too, and then we obviously have more stuff that can do more things. So I think for young people as well, I think you asked me about the young people as well. I remember when I started, we did a lot of things by ourselves. So you had multiple roles that you were trying to kind of combine, depending on where the business are. It might, for even a big business, it might just be that, oh, we're not ready to recruit for this role till the next financial year, which is in 7 months, and you need to. You're not going to resign because of that. But a lot of young people are not resilient. They say, no, that's not what I signed. That was not my contract. It's not my contract, so I'm leaving. Those things kind of groom you. It equips you. It gives you muscle, so that eventually the things that you, how do you say, even in your decision making with your own staff, I know what can come together and what cannot. Even when I have to tell people, I'm not recruiting for this reason, you're going to have to do this. I know how to manage that for the set period, you know. And I've had somebody do 3 different roles, then 2, then 1, and now she's a senior person.
She's well rounded.
Yes.
Even at that, when she gets to that role.
Yes, she can literally do anything in that business. And that was one of my things, like, I don't want to do it myself. I need to have 1 or 2 people that if I'm not there, they can go into production and direct things. They know what to do. If there's a problem in inventory, they know what to figure out, what questions to ask, and all of that. They can represent me if I can't go and say there's an issue, go and speak to this person. I know they will package themselves and they will go and do it, you know. So it was key for me, and I realized, so people need to be patient, learn the ropes. I tell my team members, I call them team members. I tell my team members, there's no information or anything I'm teaching or you're getting from me that I can take back from you. When you go for another interview, you will package yourself. I can do this. You will not tell them that you were frowning and when you were trying to achieve it. So just take it in all, you know, honesty, and just take it and learn what you want to learn from it. And it's all yours. And when you're speaking, people are like, oh, you're so smart. You don't tell them that I forced you to research. We had a book you had to read every month to be able to come and speak so that you're well-rounded. You're not going to tell them all that part. And now you did not meet your deliverable on reading the book. But these things I can't take back from you. So I'm actually investing in you, and it makes you a better person for yourself. Not just the business. Business would gain from it on the side for yourself, ultimately.
True. That's quite beautiful. Which will lead me to my final question, right? Looking at how you've been able to structure your team with the human capital resource. People say Nigeria is blessed with so much human capital resource. You know, from that human capital resource point of view, what would you say your vision for Africa is?
So I think for Africa, I think we need to. There's a lot of brain drain and lack of talent, especially for Nigeria as well, because of the people here, a lot of people living in Japa syndrome and all that. One of the things that I've always wondered and think that we can do as Africans is also cultural exchange. So Africa has similar problems, very similar industries. Why are we not doing cultural exchange of information, knowledge sharing, people coming in to almost like an internship, or the way people in high school used to do, also I think they go and do abroad for like a year.
Serious?
No, not serious. No, not serious. So a lot of the even in South Africa we used to do it, because I remember when I was doing A-levels, we had people who came from Argentina, Spain, different Australian. Yeah, they start working and they do like a cultural exchange.
Okay.
So the South Africans will go to their country, they will come to their country, they will learn things, work in their industry, just understand how it works for 1 year and go back. The people who have come learn your culture, you also learn their culture, because they're within best practices that has worked in other. Because sometimes when you're in Nigeria, you're fixed, you're in the box, because this is the only way it works in Nigeria. So sometimes having that cultural exchange can open our mind, even to possibilities within marketing, within operations, or wherever we find ourselves. So that cultural exchange is key. I would say knowledge sharing between SMEs. So I know there are a lot of entrepreneurship forums where they try to bring people, knowledge sharing, coming together. So for SMEs, maybe investment in knowledge is a problem. but how do you come together to ensure that your employees are invested in? Because even when you go to work, they invest in you now, they train, but people are afraid to invest in their team members because they will leave. If they're going to leave, they're going to leave. Either you train them or not. So I can imagine, because I was going to leave 4 or 5 years later, GSK decided that they would not invest in me for the first 3 years that I was 4 years old. So that small-mindedness of not wanting to go. You want to grow. You see yourself having this X million dollar business, but the process and the things you should put in place, starting with your tools and your employees, you are not ready to do that. So it's going to hamper the growth. So I think information sharing between business people, like-minded, and obviously using your data. How do small businesses within Africa share data? I think that was something I was trying to do. I think it was a pitch. And we were looking for information for Nigeria. We couldn't find. A lot of the information was globally driven. So you had to start cascading to say based on population and other really just kind of managing, but it shouldn't be. So a lot of categories and industries in Nigeria don't have proper data, which would definitely hamper our what do you call it?
Forecasting growth.
Forecasting growth. Even as least, if I said your customer persona, the persona you were talking to in February and now are two different people.
Person has evolved.
Person has evolved, especially because of the inflation. He could afford in February, he can't afford now. So if you have to keep increasing your price and his salary or whatever is not increasing, he's no more your customer. You wouldn't have to look for how to shift or move towards getting somebody else. But if you don't have any information and you are just saying, I went to supermarket, I did not buy today, but there is no quantitative data that you can put your hands on, it's going to be guesswork. You increase your price and realize nobody wants to buy, but you're still talking to the same customer who hasn't increased salary, who hasn't gotten an increase in salary. So how do you manage that? So if SMEs or businesses can come together and find a way to drive data, find a way to collectively put funds together. So I know there are a couple of market research firms, even when I worked in FMCG, that provided data where they physically do counts and all that, and you can use that data to make decisions on your market share and all of that. There's none of that for us. And the ones that are mostly for the bigger businesses. We're going to get there. But until then, how do we make strategic decisions with lack of information?
I think that data part is really, really critical. Institutions like Smidan, could also take up those initiatives. But I think that's quite apt. And I want to say a very big thank you to you for your time. Beautiful insights. I've learned personally. I'm also a very big admirer of business, and talking to you now, I'm glad to see that there's actual structure, driving it. And I just want to wish you the very best.
Thank you very much.
With the business, and thank you once again, for sharing with us.
Having me. I had a good chat.
Fantastic. Thank you.